Hi everyone, it's Grant Abbott speaking, and I'm the cameo. I'm the actual go-to Zoom man today. So thank you all for coming along, and I can sort of sit back and I'm like the slide guy on, or actually the slide girl on it's Jeopardy or whatever it is. But this is one of our partner solution series. We're doing it with Change GPS, and this is Michael's forte. So I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Jeffriess, if you want to take it away and just let the slide man do whatever he wants. Just tell me what to do.
I will do. Thanks, Grant, for your providing the slide and the tech support today. It's fantastic. I welcome David Boyer from Change GPS, the CEO. And as you mentioned, we'll have some cameo from yourself and hopefully Ash towards the end. I'm really excited about today's webinar. I attended the Change 2 day on Monday, and it was a fantastic day. I know they had close to, I think you had 300 attendees. David, was that correct?
Yeah, we had about 300 attendees join, which is fantastic for some paid CPD, and we broadcast on the day into the Change GPS Facebook group where a couple of hundred people joined. Maybe you were there. If you were there, I hope you enjoyed it, and it's great to see you again today.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Certainly a large amount of topics covered. Grant did a great session with to talk about a few of the highlights and a little bit later on and stuff. So, wonderful. So, Grant, if you just want to go on the next slide, I'll just give a bit of a background to everyone in case there's some attendees who haven't been to the Partner Solutions series. So we've launched this for 2021. I'll be hosting on a fortnightly basis. These webinars, there'll be sessions run by myself. We'll have special guests such as David, and we'll be bringing our partner solutions to lock in and tap into LightYear docs and provide another supporting solution to them. Today is talking about Change GPS, which is what I would call a front-end solution, which we'll go through a bit later. But we'll be looking at different areas such as technology apps, stacks, practice management, maybe even some fitness for your staff. I sat on a session this morning with Ash and with Sante in relation to a great new advisory solution coming out to the financial planning market, which is actually out at the moment, but there's some new cool things coming out with that. I was very impressed in relation to that, and I can't wait to present on that as well. Right, just on the next slide. So partner solution strategies, I've got them up there. I love SMSF, LightYear Docs, Abbott and Morley, Change GPS, I love accounting, Eventum Optimum. You can see the new great EO logo that's just been released this week. There's a new site and everything. I was talking to Tim yesterday in relation to that, and in terms of how we make that whole solution a lot more efficient. And I know that Tim talked about it on the Change Day in relation to how EO can work in relation to Change GPS strategies and solutions as well. So great slide there, just showing that handshake partnership between LightYear Docs and Change GPS. Grant, next slide. Okay, I'd just like to introduce again, just, and what a great and how lucky we are today to have David Boyer, CEO of Change GPS here. I've gone and put a little brief CV up there in bio. David can have a chat about it himself, but, TED speaker, I know he likes putting that all the time. From the trenches, I mean, I'm actually, whilst it was going for quite some time, 4 years, I believe, from the trenches. I'm fairly new to From the Trenches, and I actually only started getting into it over the recent Christmas period. And I go for a walk every morning, David, for about an hour, and I've been listening to every single episode, and I can't believe I have only picked it up now, but it was absolutely brilliant, and it's a pity it still doesn't go.
Well, thanks, Michael. And look, thanks for the very kind introduction. I always prefer it when other people bring up the TED Talk instead of me having to do it myself. But the reason I bring it up is because the belief structure that's in that talk is the foundations of what we do at Change GPS, which was that the average Australian should be talking to their accountant more. And it's a joke that they don't. And I make a few gags in it about accountants only ever get asked, when clients want to find out if they can get a tax deductible trip to Bali and all the sort of nonsense that accountants get asked. But I've been around the accounting industry for a very long time, founded my own business, SQL CFO, which is purely business advisory and CFO level work. I co-founded the Virtual CFO Association. From the Trenches was a lot of fun. It was about shining a light on what's real in the accounting world. So much marketing and so much of the things that we get excited about isn't necessarily real. The only thing that's actually real is what you can do with your clients. And that changes depending on who your clients are. And it also changes depending on how much training and CPD you put in yourself and how much leadership you bring into your business to be able to advise clients on that CPD that you've been learning. And From the Trenches was a lot of fun. It ran for 3.5 years. We stopped doing it because I wanted to actually start to solve the things that From the Trenches was commenting on, and Change GPS was able to do that excellently last year throughout JobKeeper and COVID. And we continue to do that through some of the legendary frontline apps we've got today. I'm pretty keen to show you some of them today.
Actually, if I could just butt in there, I think just taking up from David is that whether we're accountants or lawyers, we tend to look at everything and project everything from our viewpoint. So our value set is, what's important to us is, minimizing clients' tax, getting lodgements and all that sort of stuff. But if you ask your client what's really important in their life right now, minimizing tax and doing compliance is probably down around about number 15 or 16. And it's only ever the top 3 that's really important. And in this COVID situation, the top 3 things for them really is making sure their income and their wealth is secure. Secondly, that their family is looked after. And that's the important frame that we need to go back to our clients with. So when Michael's talking a little bit later on, and when you're talking about the protector, you're talking about the estate planning, they're the things that are actually motivational for the clients, and clients will act on that, and then they'll come to you. So don't put those, tax minimization, the tax compliance goggles on, because at the end of the day, you're projecting yourself on, and it's just not going to work for you.
I agree 100%. And I guess that's where, it really overlays the whole value pricing premise, which David and yourself and myself will talk a bit about later, but, and really providing that real value service for your client and then pricing appropriately for it as well.
Actually, so while I'm just on there, David, I'm going to throw a bit of a question at you. Can you value plan pricing compliance? I mean, is there any value in value plan pricing? It's always strategies that's a value plan.
Well, no, actually, so this is a great question, because a lot of people for many years thought that you can't value price compliance work, because for a long time we've been talking about compliance work being a commodity. But the commodity has a different value to different clients, and definitely bigger, more complicated groups have a greater emphasis on it than everybody else. Where the value plan price methodology is so unique is the focus on the plan. Because even in lodging a tax return, a standard tax return, getting work-related expenses right, which many accountants unfortunately seem to still struggle with, is actually a skill. And when I think about a stock standard tax return, let's take a group, trading company, investment trust, mum and dad beneficiaries, maybe they don't even have an SMSF. So pretty, that's 80% of every structure in Australia, I would have thought. Yeah. When you lodge that tax return, your engagement letter probably says preparation and lodgement of income tax return for company 123 for $5,000. And that's it. When you actually think about the plan of lodging a tax return, there's 17 different things that you're doing.
Yeah.
You're checking portals, you're reviewing documents, you're actually going into the Xero Does Everything general ledger and checking it. You can't use the word trial balance because clients don't understand what that is. You're lodging an ELS document. You're making sure signatures are in the right place, which nobody seems to worry about until the document ends up in court, which, and a divorce is probably the key thing, or a business split when that's going to happen. So maybe it might be hard to purely value price because the economic value of lodging your tax return might not be there. But it is when you consider the plan of the work that you need to do. And it is if your client's objectives, let's just say their business is really successful. Eventually, somebody's going to check that the tax returns were lodged correctly. Have a look at how much value is eroded if you lodge a tax return incorrectly when you're going through a due diligence. All of a sudden, a multiple disappears sometimes if if the other party's quite aggressive. So I think you can, with the value plan process, when it comes to just basic commoditized, in inverted commas, because I'm hesitant to say that it has been, but certainly if you're a tax agent, you're lodging a tax return, we're all playing the same product. And even for the most modern firms, compliance work and tax return lodgement still 80% of revenue for most of those firms, unless they're multidisciplinary. So I think you can, but don't oversell it. You can't. you can't put the hard sale on someone if the value's not there and if the work actually isn't hard. And BAS returns are probably the hardest ones for simple businesses. You know, especially if they've got a good BAS agent that you actually trust, and they're hard to find. But if you can, you know, it's a BAS return. It's a couple of $100, bang, lodge it. If it takes you more than 15 minutes, something's wrong.
100% too, David. And the thing too with the BAS is, I mean, if you have a great BAS agent, with zero tax now, I mean, you press the button to pull it into the BAS, or you can actually lodge from within Xero as well. But I mean, from the tax practice side of things, and the practice manager is just pull into the lodgement software, review and lodge. I mean, and so if it's been done well, done correctly, it's a very streamlined, quick.
Actually, can I get a feel for that? We've got a few on. Guys, jump in the chat and can you just share if you're using zero tax or not? I'd just love to get a feel for who is, because we've got about 33% of the GPS members don't use zero tax.
Yep.
Don't use Xero. A couple do there. Thanks for jumping in the chat there, guys. And sometimes when we talk about Xero, Debbie Potts uses XT. Sometimes John Stitz on MyBayo. God, please don't feel the pressure that you have to move to Xero. You know, every time we jump on these tech talks and we jump on panels, Xero takes over the conversation. It's a phenomenal product, and I think it's best practice. But in some firms, the cost of moving, depending on other things, isn't worth the pain. And so staying where you are is okay. Not many people in the tech world are going to say that, but I think it's true. Unless somebody's worked out how to convey the value of Xero to you as your practice tax software, don't feel like you're a second-class citizen because you're not using Xero. It's easy to come to these panels and sometimes feel like that.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, you talk about the value in terms of the compliance work. I've been working on a DD on a accounting business acquisition recently, someone, and they, in that exact point that just came up, that was that we couldn't verify the tax return or the accrued income in the end, and so they were lodging on a cash basis for BAS. So the price, the upfront price that has eventually been paid has been based on cash only and not on the accrued income. And obviously there's a retention period where they can get that in 12 months and 2 years, but you know, the value of that service, and that was their own internal tax return, which is a concern as well, but just shows you that there is value and there is a lot of process and steps to follow to actually provide that output.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think there is value in that, and we shouldn't beat ourselves up over it. The other thing that we find very hard to do, and I'll talk about this a bit later on, but you might have some clients that aren't priced very well and need to be repriced, particularly around that tax return. And Sharon McClafferty on ChangeDay2 said a line that I just think is brilliant. Every time you have a pricing conversation with someone, you're asking them to reassess the value you provide.
Yep.
And that's very scary for us because we all have a group of clients that we can't just do the job. We don't bother actually explaining the value. That, you know, there's this group of clients, and it's just the reality of it. And so it's scary to think about those clients. And so I think if we're talking about changing pricing, start with the ones that you know you're doing a ridiculous job with, that maybe they don't understand the value that you're giving.
So true.
I think, yeah.
Can I address the questions that we're getting that are coming through on the chat?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Cam Brown's asked a question about listing out those 17 touch points, about putting it in Change Core. Mate, I'm going to talk about our plans a bit later on. It's actually in our light product, our cheapest product. So if you jump in our cheapest product, have a look at the engagement letter template. There's 40 service categories, and that one's covered. The other one that's great is the end of year service description, because how bad's out of scope work? Like, you price the standard, and this is how I prove it's not commoditized. You price them up, it's $4,000, $3,000, whatever it is for the return. You go in, it turns out they sold this property that they've had for 40 years. No one knows what the cost base is. Yep. And you've got to scrounge around spending a day working out what the cost base is, trying to work, the rollover stuff. If you're an experienced accountant, you can work out the discounts pretty quickly. But you need to be able to go back to the client and say, hey, this is a change, this is a deviation. And if your engagement letter just says preparation and lodgement of the return, the client doesn't understand that there's more involved if there's a CGT event. Maybe the most sophisticated ones do, but you've only got, the average firm wouldn't have more than 10 very sophisticated clients, because you can't service that level. So I think that's a really important point.
It is it's a very, very small percentage who would really get that and understand that. And people don't have anything in relation to that change, do they? This is a slide I put together this morning, and it was something I was actually talking to Tim David yesterday about in relation to how Change GPS and LightYear docs sort of fit together and some of the other solutions we've got. And Tim really rightly put it that, Change GPS is that front end, and it provides, those, like I've grabbed that from your site, but those automated and standardized pre-written advice, and then layering across that is the documents and the strategies that go with that advice, which provide from LightYear docs. And then we've got some other solutions from Abbott and Morley and the EO and such that can actually provide supporting solutions into that. What are your thoughts on that, David and Grant?
Look, I'm going to give a scenario. I was in practice for about 7 or 8 years, and I had a love-hate relationship with tax training, which was run by Webb Martin at the time, because I knew it was really important. I liked the idea of learning something new, and I'd also fall asleep in it. So it had this double-edged sword. And then I always had this other problem, which was, this is really interesting, but how do I talk to a client about this?
Yes.
Because there's this difference between understanding the rule of the law, applying the rule of the law, which is the application. And Grant, Michael, as lawyers, you can relate to this better than anyone. The application of the rule is where the smarts is. That's why we're charging $300-400 an hour for what we know. Right. And then there's the ability to communicate it to a client who wouldn't understand page 1 of the Master Tax Guide. Not to demean the client, they're brilliant business owners. And so I think there's been this missing thing in the accounting world. And I say missing, Change GPS has been around for 11 years. So I never knew what it was. That puts this front client-facing layer on extremely technical, highly valuable advice that actually has a high price point. And that's the relationship here. And I'll be honest with you guys, we cop it a bit. Why are you partnering with LightYear docs? I've got lawyers who do this for me. And we say, fine, go use any lawyer you want. But if they can't do this, because not many lawyers in Australia can actually do it, we're going to talk about some of Grant's really, innovative work a bit later on. Then use LightYear docs, but more importantly, the actual platform that LightYear docs has developed to systemize the procurement of documents and take that energy-sucking, unchargeable administrative work of document management out of the process of, I think in some of the advice strategies, there's sometimes 5 or 6 pretty hefty documents involved.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's one that's actually 20 documents all in one.
You'd spend a day on that if you didn't have a systemized way to do it. And accountants, we like to advise on businesses. The sleep easy, de-risked, de-stressed life is when everything's systemized. Statement of fact, whether we like it or not, it just is. To be able to do it through LightYear docs, through one way to organize documents, I think is a very innovative solution. So it's the combination of Grant having these novel ideas that Change GPS is able to bring to the client. And I'll show you how we do that in a moment, combined with the efficiency of getting that information out to the client, getting the work done, that makes what we're about to show you a very profitable offering and something that your clients already want.
And that communication piece is so important. Like I might say something out of school here in terms for accountants and stuff, but I come across, and you would have, David, as well, I come across some really technically smart and intelligent accountants who just can't communicate. And I have through my whole career. And you see it in different industries, definitely. But I certainly, in the accounting industry, if you can't communicate with your clients, it's very difficult to, show that value piece again, and also be able to show them the solutions and strategies you put in place. And Change GPS really simplifies, standardizes, and streamlines that whole process for you.
I think the best communicator wins in most areas of life. Certainly in courtroom, Grant. I think, I've watched enough Law and Order and enough grandstanding in courtrooms to know that communication makes a big difference. And it's a tough thing for accountants to do. We don't go into a career in accounting because we're great at English. It wouldn't be a good fit. The personality wouldn't fit. So if we can make that easier, then that's going to be great.
Yeah, from my perspective is the original premise that I've always gone down the track of. And if we go right back to the start is if you think about when you guys probably, or particularly you, Mike, when you first started, you used to get off-the-shelf companies. And so you go and pay a company provider for that, and, it's what, $500-600. you get an SMSF deed, you would go, maybe if you went to a lawyer to start off with, you pay $700-800. And then the online documents came around, and then suddenly accountants switched because of costs. So they didn't care whether it was a legal document or provision of a legal service or whatever. It's just that, well, it was easy to facilitate, go down that track. Now, those documents are very easy to get. If you wanted to build a protector, you could go online and go to ClearDocs and put the 10 or so documents together. But it's when it's project managed and put in easily that it can be driven really quickly. But more importantly, as you go through, and David shows you the Change GPS stuff, look at all the strategies that bundled into those letters, and then work out. And I'm sure David's going to talk about the pricing that comes through in that letter. Each of those letters could easily be, would I be right in saying, David, a $25,000 to $50,000 letter if a client ticks off all of those. And if they do tick it off, then you can jump into LightYear Docs and do it really quickly. Whereas if you start outsourcing that, so for example, I know Cleary Hall, there's quite a few who charge $6,000 for Protector. View Legal, $3,000 for Protector. There's a couple of ones who charge $8,000. They're the lawyers. So if you start referring that on to them, where's your value? Suddenly you've got all these wonderful letters from Change GPS, but you're not making any money. That's why people don't vary deeds. That's why they don't keep deeds up to date. Like every family trust deed in Australia should really be 2019 or 2020. But why are you're not going to go and do that? If you go and get it varied, from a legal firm, you're looking at $300, $400, $500. And essentially, they've got your money. That's really your money that should be in your pocket, because you're the one who's driving it. They're your client. You've come up with the strategies and solutions. And I think that's the key. It's nice to say we've got lawyers for that. And they'll say, oh, yeah, but the lawyers, they refer work to us. I mean, that's a lot of bullshit. I mean, how much work do you get from lawyers, really? I mean, David, you've been in the business, and Michael, you refer work to lawyers. How often do you get work back? And if it is, it's usually...
used to, I think by default, accountants are net positive referrers. Yeah. The ledger's always in our favour.
Yeah. And I know that was a comment on the Change 2 day, but there's also, obviously Abbott and Morley, you're providing that support in relation to the Protector and EPOs and stuff. It still doesn't mean you can't refer work back to lawyers who are referring work to you. It just means that you're referring different work to them as well. So I don't think you sort of just got to blindside and say we're cutting those lawyers off, because there's other work they can do for you at different times as well. So
how many lawyers do you think are going to bed at night worried that they're cutting off the fees that accountants and other people are making?
None.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's jump to the next one. I won't go over the next slide too quickly. It was just something I was at my PT session this morning, and I was thinking about this front end and back end before, and I was also thinking, had in the back of my mind, I think it's strange things at strange times. But I saw on the Brains Trust Facebook page, I think overnight, David, there's a few comments about the new Change GPS pricing.
I hadn't noticed.
And I saw you'd made a comment as well, and about you're doing a webinar today. But it was I was putting that whole front end aspect into place. And my trainer has an application that he gave me, an app that I try, as we go through our PT sessions, we follow, and there's all different steps and everything. I was sort of thinking that back to the Change GPS, the way he delivers it and everything. And then the back end, which is like the LightYear, is those tools and everything in the trainer. And, and my comment there was, this all provides me with the most efficient way to deliver and effectively get results. And I think that's what it's really important to think about that through the whole Change GPS and LightYear Docs process. These are just a couple of key points from ChangeDay2 from Change GPS. I won't go through each of those sessions, Brian. If you can jump in the next one, and then we can deep dive and get David in. But these are a few key takeaways we heard. One of the areas was, it's a grey area. Should I be providing estate planning advice? And I spoke to Tim about this just then. We're sort of working different strategies on it. But I thought, Grant, you really did it. You got the nail right on the head when you said, accountants have been comfortable, and you sort of alluded to before, setting up companies and trusts and super funds all the time. And a company has a constitution, which is a legal document. A trust has a trustee, which is a legal document. And, just because we've been doing it all the time, we seem really comfortable doing that and providing those legal documents and working through that and getting that information gathering process to set up a company. But all of a sudden, we're talking about protectors and estate planning advice, something that we haven't done before. And, it's a grey area and we get concerned.
Can I just add into this? Why wasn't business advisory considered a grey area that this is?
Correct.
Because in business advisory, you can do a lot more damage than you can with this. And I'll give you a specific example. Everything you do through the protectors signed off by LightYear docs, backed by Abbott-Family, including, I imagine, gentlemen, your very lucrative PI insurance, just in case anything goes wrong.
Definitely.
But if you get a cash flow wrong, I'm going to tell a story in America. There was a startup that was a labor hire business, and it had some fancy tech platform. It raised $150 million, something stupid that happened in Silicon Valley. And a virtual CFO did a cash flow forecast, and he forgot that there were 3 payment cycles, fortnightly payroll.
I remember that, yeah.
Forgot that there were 3 pay cycles in a month instead of 2. It's actually a very easy thing to stuff up. The company failed, probably for a million other reasons, but it being a dumb idea being one of them, which often happens with those startups. But the press release, the statement was the virtual CFO company stuffed up the cash flow and we didn't have enough cash to cover the extra pay run. Nonsense. If you don't have enough cash to run one pay run, your business is already in dire straits, in my opinion. But that's who got blamed. But for all of the conversation about stepping into advisory work over the last 5 years, no one said, hey, there's actually a reasonable amount of risk in this. Let's be hesitant.
Exactly.
Like everything, if you acknowledge risk, build a process and system around it and understand it, you can manage your way through it to create value inside your business and value for your clients.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. And I mean, I've got a couple of other key takeaways there from Change. I mean, compliance is not dead. I think you really pointed to this, David, and COVID has supported this notion that this is not true. And the accountants have come to the forefront again where they should be and working with their clients on a regular basis, which is fantastic. I mean, you're going to go through now some of those Change GPS products and the new stuff. Like I was really impressed with Engage and great pricing point in relation to that. I know one of the big things that I get when we talk about, and I had with Jamie Beresford and a few others recently, is that, we talk about all these great tech stacks and everything, but people talk about, especially for the sole practitioner or small practitioner businesses, that, the cost is a point. And I think Engage is a great solution, definitely for that. And it's really important that you have that engagement piece right. And obviously we went through the Protect Cash Vault Successor Director solution and wills and EPOAs and value pricing on the day, absolutely fantastic. Grant, if you just want to jump on the next slide. So if you'd like to share now, Grant, to David, he'll go through the Change GPS solutions, the packaging pricing. I know you got a webinar this afternoon as well, David, in relation to what works and what you should be thinking about for your different staff members and within each practice and stuff, which I'm going to jump on and have a look at it too.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. So am I going to take over now? Is that what we're going to do?
Yes. Yep. You shared.
Awesome. Can I just get a field? Are there any Change GPS members on the line at the moment?
Yeah, I think there's a few.
Just jump in chat and let me know.
Just jump on the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. Because hi Jane, how are you? I saw your email. Somebody's going to get back to you. I've been slammed, but I promise you I'm going to get back to you. And I've got a really good solution for you. Hi Elijah. Thanks for being a GPS member. The members webinar is going to be on Friday. We've got a new member webinar this afternoon, but you guys should have got g'day David Anderson. How are you? I'm going to share my screen now.
Certainly a good problem to have, David, getting slammed with.
It is. Well, our website traffic, not that this matters to you guys, but our website traffic equals JobKeeper 2 this week. So it's good to know that so many people are engaging and care about the value GPS can give. The first thing that I want to just recap on around the protector system, if that's okay, is this is the concept of a system. And I just want to go through it and so everybody understands what it is. And it's a Word document. And what we're doing in the system is saying, take this IP and this knowledge, read this system and roll it out across your practice using this method, as well as use this as training for your staff. So the documents that we include in this is the protector system. Now, Grant, most people on this call would be familiar with your protector system.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So we've taken that knowledge and IP, we've turned into all these documents for you. A value plan price email to a client. So this is the offer, this is the marketing. That's great, but my clients aren't going to pay for this. Never assume what the client will pay for. Put the offer in front of them. The ones who like it will take it. And the ones who don't. Don't worry about it. Think about how many emails you get that you don't open. It's okay. You're allowed to grow your business. It's okay. The email to the client for confirmation or rejection offer of the home equity protection. Now, the rejection document I'm going to show you in a moment. If something's important, like my health, if I have to go to, something unfortunate happens, I have to go to hospital, I refuse treatment, the hospital makes me sign something saying I've refused treatment. That's how I know it's serious. Now, we take this stuff seriously. Send this out to the clients. Look, I think you need this. If anything happens, I want you to sign that I've advised you and you don't want to do it. A letter of advice for the actual advice you want to give, the letter to the bank, requesting approval for a second mortgage, which is a key part of the strategy. I think a lot of us shudder at the idea of having to deal with banks. And a letter to clients with the actual documents for signing, and a letter to the client when the documents actually come. Now, I'm just going to go through this quickly and gents, butt in if you have any questions you want to add in. We're presenting the concept of what this is for you in very plain English. And Grant, I think you're a very smart man for pushing some of these strategies. And I think we like to take your legal brain and turn it into language that clients can understand very easily. The same thing accountants do with tax very often. So we put some background to the protector in how, and then how it works with properties. Now, if you've got a client in a meeting, you can literally just get this up and get this diagram up to explain to them what they're doing. The personal relationship with the client, something that exploded because of JobKeeper. You copy this and put it on a slide, put your firm's branding around it. This is the conversation you're having with your client once they're in, or the conversation you're having with staff when you're educating them. We then talk about how the protector works. So again, educate your team internally. We even give you the journal entries that your accountants need to put into financial statements so that the financial statements match the legal structure that's been set up. And I see this done wrong for simple structures, let alone complex structures. And I remember even as a graduate, some of the old trustees that were settled with $100 used to have the old $100 bills on the red permanent files in the office as the settlement sum that was put in.
I remember that as well.
Yeah, do you reckon anyone does that anymore?
No. I hope not. Anyhow.
No, but I remember, and they were the old paper money, which was a big deal because you hadn't had it, Anyway, then we get into the marketing, which is the VPP email, which I'll show you in a moment. The price guidelines now. The price guidelines are really important because how much money can you make out of this is a reasonable question to ask. You're a shareholder in your business. It's okay to ask that. And so these prices here aren't made up. They weren't prepared by management consultants. In Change Accountants and Advisors, this is what we've charged our clients. And they're unbelievable. And you might have clients where you're doing this stuff 4 or 5 times, and this thing just keeps going and going and going. And because you're using the LightYear Docs document procurement in the background, the system just keeps getting more and more efficient. You keep making more and more money. There's nothing wrong with that. We even give you an invoice description to use on these services. I'm going to jump on Engage in a moment. I'm going to show you how we automate that for you as well, so you can get that engagement and invoice out to the client. Here's the actual system that you go through. 1, send the VPP email to your client to offer the home equity protection service. 2, phone your clients, confirm they've received the email and discuss it with them. Don't just send an email, job done. How many emails do you actually open? In the accounting industry, if you can hit 20% open rate on your emails, you're doing extremely well.
Very well.
20%, because this is a marketing email. It's not a please sign the attached form, which is something that you'd hope most of the clients actually can listen to. If the client doesn't want the service, you can send the confirmation rejection letter, and you can then generate the documents using LightYear Docs. What we've done here is actually created the concept of an estate planning coordinator, somebody in your practice who's responsible for managing the LightYear Docs process. It might be your customer service coordinator or a receptionist that you're going to train up and put into this role. But I think it's important to call it that because this is a valuable piece of advice, and staff might actually like being seen to step up into this role. There's a bit of sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and status that can come with that. Arranging a Zoom meeting with the lawyers. And as you can see, we go through the whole process to make it as simple as we possibly can for you. It's a 12-step process to get this done. That's the system that we have. And we do this for a number of systems that we've worked with Grant and the team in LightYear Docs. We also do it for estate planning. The estate planning includes many more documents than that. And I've got these on my computer if you want to have a look at them now, but I was just a bit mindful of time. I didn't think we'd be able to do it. VPP emails, the data capture form is really important. But the thing that I really like in here, in this system that I want to show you, is this concept of and here's the marketing strategy for you of how to use this, including online social media posts that are increasingly becoming important, because whilst this stuff's excellent for existing clients, this is probably a great point of difference to the accountant down the road. Most accountants, we don't compete nationally. We compete in the suburb that we're in mostly. So, some of us are doing national stuff because we've got digital clients and online, but I think mostly it's in the suburbs. So it's a great point of difference to be able to offer that and show off that you do it. And again, all the different pricing suggestions for all the different types of wills and estate planning you can do. I mean, it's just incredible. Jess, do you want to add, and there's the system. Do you want to add something into this before I actually start showing some of the Change GPS technology that helps you do this?
Yeah,
sorry. If I just quickly first, Grant, I absolutely love. One thing I really love is that rejection thing, and your example of the hospital is perfect. I was actually speaking to a business partner on the drive down to Kingscliff yesterday to meet a property development client, and I was speaking exactly about this whole thing. And I said, it's just great how you put and really pushes forward the importance of what you're doing, and really places back. Okay, the client's considered it; they're not going to proceed, but I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, from my end, obviously when you're dealing with estate planning and all of that, you may need to get legal support there, and that's certainly where Abbott-Family can fit in. When it's certainly not expensive. With a protector, it's a locked up plan. I mean, it's just simply creation of a trust, a loan agreement, a deed of gift. So there's nothing really overly serious there. So you don't need to have legal support to an extent. However, what I've been having a chat with Tim and also Michael is that we're more than happy for Change GPS members to get on board themselves, because they're the ones who absolutely need the protector, to put that in place. And then if you need a review from us, if you're already on our strategist, if you're a strategist subscriber, we'll do that for free. Otherwise, we're happy to, at Abbott-Family, to do a quick walkover, have a chat with you in a Zoom meeting, spend some time to make sure you've got it absolutely 100% correct, and we'll only charge $250 for that service. So the whole idea there is that if you can do it for yourself and actually see the real value for yourself, because we're all exposed as professionals, and we're talking about our family homes, we're talking about our residential properties, even those that have got the properties inside the spouse's name. As Tim said the other day, it's an absolute nightmare when it comes down to that track. So let's fix the whole thing up with a protector for yourself.
Look, I want to go on changegps.com.au. If you're not a member, is the best place to find out about all of this stuff. If you hover over the apps icon, you can see the apps that we have. Everything that I'm showing you today, all the protector stuff, is in our Change GPS Core product, and in particular Core Pro. We introduced a product called Core Light, which is just heavily focused on getting your compliance done efficiently. Core Pro is where some of these really value-added advice is. And if you jump on Core and have a look at that, you can pretty easily see as you navigate through what the differences are between Core Light and Core Pro. All the features are listed down here, and we're just going to update this with the new systems that we just launched on Monday as well. I'm going to jump in and actually show a bit of the product now, the Engage product. Is that all right, guys?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Because what I wanted to show is, there's lots of engagement products out on the market, and we thought there was a way that could be better, because what people love about Change GPS, and the comment came up before, is there were 17 service descriptions that we put in. So I'm going to just show you how to do this. If you are a Xero user and use XPM, you can search the XPM database and bring a client group in. And what's great is it actually brings in the partner that's been attached in XPM. For this group, obviously, don't have a manager attached, but I can do that. And I think that's really important to get that in there. Obviously, engagement letters to be compliant with APS needs a start date and a renewal date. So I'm just going to put this sometime in the future. And what I love about it is we are so focused on value that we have a specific section in our value letter called Value to You. And this is where you can type in anything specific about the client that the client said they want from you. If it's a specific project or if it's general annual work, you can completely customize that and add that in sort of forms engagement letter. A feature about this that I don't believe is anywhere else on the market is automated ethical letters. So I can jump in there you go. I'll put in the firm of the old firm, and I can generate an ethical letter out of this. And straight away, I've got a very clean and professional ethical letter that I can send out to the former accountant to make sure I'm compliant with my APS. And we're increasingly seeing, I'm aware of some CA audits that have been done at firms where they're asking for ethical letters. And accountants sort of scrounging around to get them done after the fact. So that's
I'm not aware of any solution either, David, that does that ethical letter for you. I mean, it's always been a manual process.
Our engagement products focus on what you need to do to engage. And to engage, you need to do an ethical letter and you need to explain your value to a client. Anything else outside of that, engage a client and you need to have that engagement letter signed. Outside of that, it's all nice to haves. We're focusing on what actually matters in engagement here. So I'm going to bring an entity in. It might be Bean Roasters, which is the company. And that's going to be a company. And straight away, I've got service descriptions for 40 different things in here at the moment, including some BAS agent services, which is a new service we're going to be bringing in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm going to pick the annual financial statements and tax returns. For this client, I might also do a BAS. I might also have a look at something else. I might do a strategic planning session and some tax planning advice. Now you notice it says manual tag reviews required. I can customize all the service descriptions in here. What this is asking me to do is we're saying that we're doing a BAS for a period. So we're going to say, June 20 to June 21.
Yep.
Something like that. We're making it easy for you to know what you need to do, and you can see that the standard template's been changed there. I can add in as many entities as I want on this. So I'm going to put Mr. Bean in as an individual, and we're just going to do a tax return for him. There's the individual one. So we've got different advice categories. And so I've got a manual tag return, list any inclusions such as rental properties. Make it customized for your client. Don't just send out the default. Show them you paid attention to that first meeting. And that's how you create it. Now, when it comes to getting paid, there's different payment methods available that we never used to have before. And we know that upfront fees, Change GPS' personal favorite is getting paid up front. Yeah. Monthly fees, and then on completion. And I might say, the annual tax return, we're going to do that monthly. We're going to make that $500 a month. The strategic planning session, because the client's not sure of value, I'm going to put that one on completion. And I sort of prepare this schedule of payments that's going to happen as we go through this work. For many of these service lines, we've got suggested pricing as well. And look, I wouldn't say, it's not smarts. It's not like Go Proposal has outstanding AI around their pricing suggestions. This is just, based on where we're seeing the market, what we're doing at Change Accountants. As I go through this, and that's, I've got to bring a client in here, sorry. I hope I haven't stuffed this up. You'll see I just saved it then. Something that I'm going to add into here though is maybe I've been talking to this client and they want the protector. I'm just going to save that one. I can go into the system, and we're actually going to add this in the future, but I'm just going to do this right now. Now we've got in the system that we have suggestions that you put on your invoice description, but that might also work for the engagement letter. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to jump into my settings, and I can add in as many standardized services that I want, particular to my practice. Because maybe you do things a bit differently to us. Maybe you have expertise somewhere. So there you go, I've put that. I'm going to put my standard suggested fee. What are we charging for this, gents? $3,500 up front.
Yeah, $3,500.
So I've now created a service description. I'm going to jump back into Engage. Open this up. Where's the one that I just did today? I'm going to add in estate planning and asset protection advice, which we just put in there. So you can completely customize this to make it work the way you run your practice. The client details, this is important for the cover letter that comes in. Again, if you've got XPM, this will be populated. If not, it's going to take you 30 seconds to put the client email address and contact details in there. That's the data we pull from XPM. And then we create a very professional looking engagement letter, because what our members told us, they don't want engagement that has to fundamentally change the way they present themselves to clients. They just want it to be a bit easier. And that's what we're focusing on. So this looks like a standard engagement letter. It's a PDF document. It's always going to be a PDF document. There's all the different services laid out so the client can see, and the fee schedule that you're providing them. Your agreement, and included in this are terms and conditions that we've worked with. T's and C's cost me $3 to $4 grand to get them done. Now we review the CA IPA and CA1s annually, make sure we've updated these. This is based on the existing engagement letter template we've had in GPS for 6 years. And we've added additional very modern things into these T's and C's that maybe your current ones don't have. Things like what cloud services you use, what cloud apps you use, where your data's stored. We even have additional rules in here that can help you get better data collection, commercial terms that we get in standard ones, new Privacy Act and STP stuff. I think everyone's on top of their STP engagements now, but for a while they weren't. But here's the super value in this, the product descriptions. So here's just an example, the annual financial statements and tax returns. I've got a few of them in here. The BAS return, here's all the things we do in a BAS return, strategic planning session. And then when it comes to the protector, we've got the protector and estate planning advice that we've put in here. So when you sit down with your client, you talk to them about this. This is the plan part of the work. The value happens at the start of the engagement letter. This is the plan. But what I really like about this is, we now have a full PDF editor, so you can bring in any marketing material you might have in your practice to drag and drop a PDF in. When it comes to producing this, we've added digital signatures in. I'm not going to show that to you right now because it's going to go into my personal email, and I've probably got a few emails that I want to keep to myself at the moment because we've got a few surprises coming for our GPS members in a couple of weeks' time. Using that, we've got a digital signature. If you don't want to use a digital signature, don't worry, download it as a PDF. Or as a PDF attachment. If you download it as a PDF attachment, all we're going to do is open up Microsoft Outlook and you can email it out to the client as an attachment. For getting paid, we're using Go Cardless, which is a cheap, very cheap and cost-effective direct debit solution. You get a direct debit mandate with your client. So clients don't change their bank account, so you're not going to have to worry about changing credit cards. And with that direct debit mandate, you've got better control over your debt collection, which I think is fantastic. And we've also partnered with Quick Fee Installments for the Quick Fee Installment product. Now, that product I think is unbelievable. It's buy now, pay later for accountants. And many people have heard of Quick Fee, and many people used to use it and got kicked out because their turnover wasn't more than $1 million. Well, this is for you. It's for practices that turn over less than $1 million. It's non-recourse to you as the practice owner, because the way it works is it takes a hold of your accounting fees on your client's credit card. It deducts it off your client's credit card every month over 4 even payments. And the cost to you as the accountant is, I think, 6.99% as a fee that's charged for it, which is significantly cheaper than funding your clients off your own balance sheet. So that's how Engage works with Protector Gents.
There's a couple of questions there, David, in relation to will it go through to zero practice manager, I think, as jobs and stuff, and whether the engagement goes through.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through those questions. Thanks, Grant. So our integration with Xero is with Xero Blue. So we'll create an invoice in draft in Xero Blue for you, because I think the invoice is really important. We will not deploy jobs in XPM. We don't have intentions to deploy jobs in XPM. If that hyper automation is the number one value for you, Practice Ignition is the best product for you. We think that there's a huge chunk of accountants who maybe have had troubles with their XPM integration with PI as well. There's a lot of accountants out there who really focus on the quality of the engagement and getting paid. So we don't have any plans to integrate with XPM on the jobs front. The T's and C's at the moment are only our standard T's and C's. I think in about 2 months, we're going to add a module in so that you can add your own ones in, because we know we want you to be able to have that flexibility, but we kind of just needed to start with something. And given, there's 500 firms using GPS, and probably at least half are using the T's and C's that we've had in there for 6 years, we were confident that they were good. I think they're the questions I've got. Yeah, the XPM jobs. What's the quick fee options with businesses more than a mil from Mark McKenzie? Mark, you can still use quick fee installments if you want. The other quick fee products, has been around forever, which is, I think, just their basic debtor funding product, which has been around for a long time, well trusted and well used. And something I like about quick fee being a listed company, there's a fair amount of governance. You're not relying on a startup that needs capital raising to manage all your payments, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
One other thing that sort of came to me is when we're going through that, and I noticed that, I've been noticing it for the last few months, is essentially you've built a system around providing documents. And you do the sales, the marketing, the invoicing, all that stuff that accountants really need, which is no different from LightYear. So effectively what LightYear's done is exactly the same sort of system. But what we do is we effectively take the legal templates from Abbott-Family. They're then moved into the system and they're constantly updated so that when you're just simply filling in the fields, you're not actually creating. It's the same thing as you're not creating. When someone fills in the fields on your system, they're not creating letters. The letters are already done. All they're doing is they're pre-preparing from the client. And that's the big difference of why you're not providing legal services, because all you're doing is merely acting as a scribe, or you're pulling in the data over into the system. I think that's a fairly important nomenclature when we have a look at it with the LightYear docs and the Abbott-Family templates, is much the same as what you've done. And it's been fantastic. I mean, you guys are really good at what you do. We're good at what we do, but when they work together, it works beautifully in unison to maximize the returns to the shareholder, being the accountant and obviously their family.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to show you one other app that really relates to the sort of advice that we're working at the moment, which is Actions, which we just launched. But David Anderson's asked a question, is the XPM dropping on the drawing board? And it's not now, partly because I think PI does it so well. If we can't do something better than what's out there, it's tough to argue why we would do it. But my zero spies tell me that XPM and, maybe not spies. I have a feeling that XPM and Zero HQ are finally going to start delivering on what we think it can do. I think we need to wait and see what that is before we start developing product around it. But it's pretty exciting. I think what they're doing is a really, really good thing. I want to show one of the apps. How are we going for time? Should we jump to questions? I think we've only got 6 minutes left. Or should I show one more thing?
Yeah, show the app. If people got questions, just throw them on the chat and Michael or myself will pitch them at you.
We can get back to anyone after.
So this is Actions. We released this on Monday. And the idea from Actions came from, when I was advising clients, I suffer from really bad anxiety that wake up in the middle of the night thinking, I forgot to do something. And part of that was because I'm a terrible note taker. But part of it was because I'd regularly focused on the most important things that would come out of a meeting, but not necessarily everything. And I was just chatting to Tim about this. I think we're having a scotch when we came up with it. We said, we've got developers. Surely we could solve this. We're a couple of entrepreneurial young men. We could work this out. And we came up with Actions. We developed this quite literally in 4 weeks. So we wanted to get it into the market. We want to show you what it can do because we think it's powerful already. But the idea behind it is you have meetings with clients, just have casual conversations. Sometimes you need to be prompt about what to talk about in that meeting. And also these days, nobody gets agendas anymore because they're too hard to send, but geez, they're professional. Whenever I get a meeting that I get to send an agenda to, Michael's, to his credit, actually sent me a run sheet for today. If you, Grant, you've been on Change GPS webinars. Have we ever sent you a run sheet? Oh, we just go for it.
I suddenly thought I should shoot a couple of notes.
I've never seen that. I'm building a training plan, obviously, at the moment for our course that's coming up for the Succession Asset Protection Estate Planning Advisors, the accreditation. But you have to do that training plan mainly because it has to go to the Business Skills Council. But otherwise, you just run on the fly.
But it's just professional. And so I'll give you things like, so we've got 27 different meeting types. Reviews, the annual review, quarterly meeting, monthly review meeting will be the one that I expect gets used the most by your team. But you might, if you've got a tax planning meeting, estate planning advice, at the moment we haven't got the agendas in here just yet. We're going to be populating them over the next few months because we've already got a lot of this information in Change GPS documents and systems already. We just need to transfer them into the meeting agendas.
Yeah.
You can add your custom ones into this through the settings, similar to what I showed you before. But let's have a look at the annual review meeting. I love this one because this has come from an annual summary product. Imagine your client gets this, your financial life. You sit down and get them to sign their tax return. You ask what's important in your life. What would make this year a great year personally? What do you need to achieve in your business to achieve these goals? The whole world starts to open up. Clients start, love it. People tell us clients started crying when they've been going through this. I mean, that's how you know you're trusted. And so what this app does is, I'm just going to bring a client in for this so I can actually show it to you live. I'm going to bring that Bean Roasters group in from XPM. So brought in the partner and the manager, that's XPM data. The accountant that we might bring along to the meeting, we might bring Linda. Any other meeting attendees, lawyers and wealth planners, who's in the room. The meeting date, very important. The meeting time and the meeting place, you might say Zoom, pretty common these days. Now, straight away, I can get an email agenda. I can put some different default emails that come out. I can get that PDF attachment, and that should open up as I'm on a different computer today. So let's see how this goes. This is going to open up as an email that I can send out to my clients. Let's see how this goes. There you go. That's ready to be sent out. Now, what does that look like? Well, check this out and tell me if you think this is professional, because I think it is. Imagine your client got this before they came in to sign their tax returns. Just professional. And you can customize all of this. If you don't want to talk about that stuff, just delete it out. Delete it if you don't want to talk about it. We'll work on this because I think it's a bit,
I think it's great.
So that sets the agenda. Then you hold the meeting. Now, things happen in meetings. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to initialize this. So there you go. There's my agenda. So I always need to pull my agenda into the meeting now. And as I have the meeting, things happen. Send protector engagement. Client doesn't need to do that. I want my customer service coordinator to do that. I wanted to do that today because this is urgent. Gemma's our customers. The fee estimate's $5,000. Now, at the moment, you can probably see where we're going with this. This doesn't go anywhere just yet, but phase 2 of this product, we're going to help you manage your pipeline of project work by putting fee estimates from the actions that come out of meetings. And maybe one is lodge, March, BAS, and the accountant's responsible for that. And that needs to be done by the end of the month. And that's not completed. There's 2 tasks that have come out of this. Any meeting notes? Client was wants to meet with family to have all members' estates discussed. Put an action item on that. And I might have some internal file notes. You've got to be really careful with internal file notes. But finally, they're taking our advice. You've got to be careful, but don't worry, that's not going to get automated. And I can add in as many notes as I want into this.
There's been a few funny stories in the past about those internal file notes as well.
You gotta be careful, eh?
Yeah.
Here's what's really cool. I now have action status. So at any point in time, if the client comes in and says, hey, what happened in that meeting, I can go in and I can download completed and outstanding actions. So the outstanding action report follows the formatting that we've just seen. And guys, we're putting this in Word because I just think if you're using FI Docs, this gets added into FI Docs. If you're using Suite File, save it into the client file. But you can send this out to the client. It looks great. Graham Davis, I'm in. I'll have a chat afterwards, Graham. And then we got excited because we realised we have a whole database of important action items. Now, this is not carbon. This is not automated workflow. This is new work, new projects, all that stuff, update trust, all that stuff that we know we need to get to and never have the time for. We've at least got a control repository of where it should be. So as part of this, we said, well, let's reimagine what we use the Change GPS dashboard for. Because now when I go into the Change GPS dashboard, I can see a list across all of my accountants and all of my clients of outstanding work that needs to be done. And there we go. There's the one that we just did.
Mm.
So you can see what's happening in meetings. You can search this. As I said, we released this in 4 weeks. I might work a little bit on how this looks, but I think it's so obvious that it's actually really good from a user experience point of view. I can search clients, person responsible, due dates, whatever I want. I can search to find the task and check the status of it. And you can sort of imagine once we've got this data, the future of where this product's going to go.
Yeah,
this is a brand new product that we've put into Change GPS Core Pro. And it's something that if existing members need to upgrade from their current plan to Pro, because we announced all new plans on Monday, to be able to access that. That's a nuance of our new billing system. That's not playing games. It's just a function of what happens when you make as much change as we have this week. And I hope you can see how this relates to all of this new sort of work that we're talking about with LightYear Group. It's not just about having the IP, it's about communicating with the client, managing the workflow in your practice, keeping control of what you've represented to your client. And I think Change GPS is heavily built of Tim's experiences and more recently my experiences in practice, trying to solve the problems we have and talking to, there's about 100 GPS members that have been around for 10 years, maybe some are on the call, listening to them. Is this what's still happening in practice? And to the Xero firms, sometimes we go to Xero Roadshow, XeroCon, and I'm all over XeroCon, I love it. But sometimes there are things there that I think, oh, it's great and it's cool, and the tech innovator in me loves it. But does it actually make a difference to my clients? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll probably end up buying it and getting frustrated that I don't use it every time I see the credit card statement come every month. So that's what I wanted to show you. I'm just going to answer a couple of questions. Mark, does GPS have a platform to manage, monitor, and report on overall objectives and position? Can it be used as a central working doc platform between us and the client that's updated regularly? We are not a document repository. We're not document storage, and we're not a portal. We create documents. That's our purpose. All the documents are saved in here. We have outstanding security around this. Fundamentally, you're responsible for your client's privacy, client education, and client content and information. But everything that's saved in here, so you can come back in and edit it, play with it, reuse it again. But it does need to be stored on an external service. Our integration with Microsoft Office is extremely good. So if you're using any of the I guess, SharePoint add-on services like FY Doc, SharePoint, or OneDrive itself, when you go into those apps, in the banner, all our documents you can see, they open up in Microsoft Word. So if you've got FY Docs, you'll have a banner in here which says Save to FYI.
Mm.
That's we kind of have this, not deliberate, I get on with the FY guys really well, and Rob's brilliant. But through the joint love of Office 365, we've got this sort of native integration that just works.
It goes across, yeah, definitely. What about, I think this action dashboard is fantastic. What about in terms of, I guess it's internal. What about like action points that come out at me in terms of client responsibility that might go to them, or is it?
Yeah, so all right, I'll show you how I do that. Thanks for asking that, because I hadn't thought of that purpose, but it will work. I'll show you. Please indulge me, everyone. I've never done this before. If I go into actions in my settings screen, edit meeting types, I'm going to create a service. Let's call this internal team meeting.
Yep.
Now, honestly, there are better apps out there than this, but if you can't be bothered with something else, you can use it for this. I can do the agenda item, which might be review ATO lodgement list. It might be WIP review. This is the sort of stuff that goes on in those meetings.
Yep.
Client, noisy clients. We all have them. We need to discuss them. I don't know. Monthly invoicing. That's a bit of a team meeting.
Yep.
You can add any additional discussion points after that. The meeting group I'm going to put that in is internal. Create that. Now when I go into and this will only be available for your firm because we're customizing your firm. I'll go into actions. So Mark's questions about capturing their overall results and output that can be updated regularly. Annually, yes, and if people don't mind sticking on, I'm mindful we're going over time. I'll show you that in just a moment, Mark. It's more for the annual results rather than that monthly management accounting stuff, but I'll show you that in a moment. I've now got here the internal team workflow meeting, and there it is. And the way you manage this is just make sure that when it goes to and you might need the client, you might need to put your practice as the client. I'll just put bean roasters now, but that's how you do it. That's actually a really good use case. Thanks for suggesting it. The question about a product to capture overall results. So this is our annual summary product. It's just been renamed Progress because I think that's the purpose of it. I'm just going to load a saved one in here. And what we're trying to do here, talk about communication, right? You go to that end of your meeting, you've got a pile of documents the client needs to sign if you're not using digital signatures, or if you are using digital signatures, and you say to the client, I want to talk to you about something, go to page 8. And they flick through or they scroll down the PDF. It's just ridiculous. It's just impossible. What we're doing here is summarizing the progress of a group year on year. It updates all the time. It doesn't automatically suck data in from Xero. I'd love it to. We're talking to them about it, but it's very hard to get access to Xero tax data because of the security around it. We're working on it. We put in any income for the year, any BAS adjustments, totals. We've got automated ATO benchmarking data in here. So just pick the ANZIC code that the client works for. Any future tax payments, so you can talk about some, upcoming key announcements there, although our tax planning product's better for that. The distributions, if you've got Div 7A loans, automated Div 7A advice. Standardized for your practice to de-risk you. You still need to make the call about what it is and how it's going to work, but that's in there. Yep. And any issues and recommendations, we've got about 25 standard ones in here. This is what the report looks like. And this is sort of the impetus of the agenda meetings. This is the annual review meeting. Client details, cover letter. I'm just going to produce this document now. Now, this document's pretty big. It's got a lot of charts in it, so it takes a bit longer. I love this feature, by the way. You can add in your team so the client really feels that service and that love. And this is what the document looks like. Now, imagine your client reviewing this instead of a pile of tax returns and annual accounts. Now, you might want to use a Futurely or a Fathom for that monthly movement stuff. Those products are better for this. Honestly, Microsoft Excel's still excellent at it, especially if you're using a data deer type product to suck the data out. You probably need to be a bit more tech savvy to do that, but it's excellent. And here's what the report looks like. It's a 21-page report, really professional cover letter. The presentation looks like all the GPS documents, so you're getting that branding consistency. The group tax position summarized. Compare that to the rushed Excel list that we do.
Yeah.
The client's coming in half an hour, group 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm trying to throw it all together.
Yeah, like it's just, it's always last minute. Detailed tax summary. This is great because you're showing average tax payable. Even the least sophisticated client knows that last year I paid 30% tax, this year's 26%. My accountant's done a good job. This is quantifying value. And we actually show it year on year. Look, here's the movement in your average tax assessed for the group.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Really useful if you've just done a big tax planning restructure or asset protection restructure. Really useful to prove the outcome of that work. Jane, this isn't in core. So previously, the old GPS, you had to have core to get this. It's now available as a standalone product. It's $290. Used to be $300. We've dropped the price on it because look, we've invested heavily in new products and new systems and Change GPS, and that's part of why our plan prices have changed. What's the critical reason our plan prices have changed? But we haven't in annual summaries. We've actually dropped the price on this. I think the pay for value conversation has two edges. If the value's increased, the price goes up. If it hasn't, maybe the price should go down. I believe that. This used to be $300. It's down to $290 now. But how good's that? Like to show year on year, just key things, right? High level, your revenue, GP, net profit. And this one's really important, net profit and owner salaries and super. Because that's the how much cash does my business have to fund my lifestyle conversation. And that, when you talk about cash flow for business, what you're really talking about is, can I send my kids to private school? Can we renovate the kitchen? Can I pay off debt? Can I go in any other year overseas? That's really what cash flow is talking about, or exit. And there's the Div 7A loan advice. ATO small business benchmarking. So if you're struggling if you know you want an advisory conversation with the client, the ATO small business benchmarks are a good way to start talking about performance because it's not your data, it's the ATO, so you can kind of blame someone else. GST adjustments, then we just go through entity by entity. So this is a great way to show progress, but it's not that monthly management performance tool that you might, I mean, even Xero's dashboards are really good for just getting started with that. This
presentation's wonderful though, isn't it? It's just, it's a lot better, as you said, than just whacking a whole big pile of tax returns down and trying to explain your way through them.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
I've got
Anything else you want to
one there
say?
from Jane. Is this only for core, Dave?
Yeah, no. So look, I'm actually going to show the plans. Mark McKenzie, Net Wealth, mate. Oh, our wealth app. We are so excited about the wealth app. It's going to come sometime in the next 12 months. What we have for wealth, I'm going to show you under resources. It's about 500 documents in our resources app. Under the wealth, if you have a look at, we've got life accounting, which is something we've started with. The freedom plan and wealth strategy, your 5-year plan, is a reasonable template. This is old. It's something that needs updating, but it's still appropriate. Because what we're doing is we're just talking about, the impact of wealth creation strategies. You take into account, for most clients, the business is the biggest asset, unless they've, invested in property quite wisely. And this stuff's been around for 15 years. I reckon when I was a grad, I was seeing templates like this. It's still the best in terms of the logic that's used. It is Microsoft Excel, but it's great. So that's in there. You've also got in there the financial safety checklist, which was a really good campaign that we did at the start of the year. And I'm going to show another thing while we're talking about it on business purchase and sale. The business due diligence checklist, or the business due diligence report. Let me find that. Due diligence report. Talk about communication, right? Most accountants have due diligence Excel templates that they like. Very few of us have final reports templates that we like. I never had it. So this is a fantastic report that's the summary of findings for a due diligence that you've done. This takes most accountants more time than the actual due diligence work. The due diligence we're experts at. But mate, like this looks like a PwC prepared report. Because PwC's charged the client for the admin team and the marketing team to put this together. Well, here's the report. And included, we've got a due diligence system, which is the whole process that's involved in it. But that's included in there as well while I'm sort of showing off. We did announce new plans on Monday, and there is a lot to take in. We've never changed our plans in 10 years, never changed our prices in 10 years. And for old members, that matters. For new members, it's just all about value. I'm very confident in the value and the money that you can make from Change GPS. I mean, we've just showed you how much you can build for just 3 of the things that we've got. There's a lot more in there. Core is where you'll find the documents that we've shown you today. And I'm going to update this so that it clearly shows that you get the new system, the estate planning and protector systems in here as well. Core Light is outstanding if you have a compliance-based and compliance-only practice. Yep. And there's many of them out there.
There are, yeah, definitely.
Because this just standardizes everything. It standardizes winning a new product, winning a new client, standardizes your work papers, it standardizes your tax return checklist. And on the tax return checklist, one of our members is being investigated by the TPB. I must admit, I think he's done the wrong thing here and he might be in a bit of trouble. Part of me hopes he gets in trouble because he deserves it based on what I saw. The letter which was sent 2 weeks ago mentions the tax return checklist 3 times. So the TPB are looking at this. We have to have it. So we've got a tax return checklist. It's got 300 things on it. We update it every year. So for company tax returns, individual tax returns, this is it. This is perfect. It's everything you need to standardize I'm small and want to stay small, or I've just started and have nothing compliance practice. For all this real big money-making stuff that you get all of that in Core Pro, plus everything that I've shown you today. The Actions app, you need to be on Core Pro in order to on these plans to get to access Engage. You get our service plan CRM product, the structure advice report, all of the custom apps that we have are all in Core Pro. And then if you're a bigger practice, over 15 users, we've moved to a per user pricing because we've won some pretty big firms recently. And, I've rolled out plenty of tech in my practice over the years. If you don't get the right service, it just fails.
Yeah.
And so we put on an extra member success manager this year. So we're investing in success managers, we're not just marketing, we're investing in making sure the adoption gets there. And so for enterprise clients and bigger firms that might be listening, you get complete customized onboarding and rollout, more face-to-face time and custom training. And we know that that's what we all need in order to get the most out of these things, to get the biggest ROI.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think it's great.
A couple of offers for the existing members that are on. If you move across now, we're just working on how we can do this in the back end, but we'll keep your pricing on the current pricing that you're on for 3 months if you move across to the new one. We've just got to work out how we're doing it. Change GPS Engage, which is brand new. We're just doing a pre-sale at the moment while we get some of the payments part of it right, because I want to do a lot of testing on that, because it's money, right? We don't want to release that early if it's not 100%. So you can get it for pre-sale now. You can have a look at it. Here's a quick overview video of it if you want to check that out again. Change GPS Engage, you can get it for 3 months free at the moment on a 12-month agreement. So we've got a nice little promotion on that one to get it launched.
It's wonderful. Yeah. That's really good.
So what I might do, if guys, I'm just going to get a couple of links. I'm going to post some links in the chat for some webinars that we're running for members and non-members. Otherwise, head to changegps.com.au. You can see there's a ton of information here. You can even see a full, if you want to have a look at the full product, I think we've got a full demo down here. So there's plenty of demos that are on here, FAQs. Everything's here for you. There you go, book a demo. Who would have thought? You can book a demo there, or you can just watch a demo in your own time here. There's a 15-minute demo for you there.
That's brilliant.
Awesome. I might hand back to you guys while I grab those links.
Yeah, thanks, David. I think that's, I mean, there's a lot in there to take in for everyone, but and that's where the value is, in that product pricing and what you deliver to market. I think that's, people have got to realise how much is in there and how it makes their life and their practice a lot more efficient and streamlined, and allows them to add value to clients on an ongoing basis.
And look, at the end of the day, you'd be quite surprised, particularly the larger firms that I find, is if they went through and had a look at their last year's P&L and look at the amount of money that their clients, they spent on getting documents, referring to lawyers, the amount of money there, they could quite easily get our top package, also the Change GPS top package, and still be well and truly in front of the pack with a whole lot of, one is you're saving money, but at the same time, you're actually extrapolating a huge amount of revenue. So you're doing 2 in 1.
And you're doing the right thing by your clients too.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's perfect. You're just putting in a couple of links.
We might wrap up.
Perfect.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, so I was just grabbing the links. So look, it's a bit of a rush. 1 o'clock today, if you're not a member, I'm just going to go a bit of a deep dive, extend on, and might be repeating a bit of what you just saw. But jump on the website, and for members on Friday at 1 o'clock Melbourne, Sydney time. And I'll tell you what, I'll just be being really transparent here. We announced massive changes on Monday to GPS members. There's about 500 firms using GPS. So far, 27% of all our members have already been in contact with us. And if that's you, thank you, because that engagement's exactly what we want. We know that we need to work hard to explain what's happening and what it means for the value you get. I 100% back the value and the money you can make out of this. And we're just going to keep talking and educating. And a comment was made on Facebook last night, if you have to do a webinar to exchange your plans, it's not worth it. Honestly, guys, if you can't spend half an hour to work out what critical practice management tools you want to use in your business, you need to think about how you're running your business. I think it's really important that we don't blindly put our credit cards away on annual subscriptions for technology anymore. And then resent the subscription expense category when we look at our P&Ls every month. It's worth doing due diligence on the tech that you do. And if you're on the LightYear webinars, you're already doing it because you're spending time learning about how LightYear works. So I just think that's the best way to go.
Yeah, I agree. It's important you sort of review that, and because I mean there obviously was time where everyone rushed out and signed up to everything.
Yeah, we bought everything.
Yeah,
everything.
Tiny.
I know I did it myself. So.
Yeah. Next Wednesday we've got a webinar too, which is I'll be going through a deep dive on why you would be using the leading member discretionary trusts, family protection trusts, and SMSFs, and really post that. Mark was saying, can you explain your answer about me coming in and Abbott-Family looking over a protector in your estate planning? You will find it being quite transformative. One is that there's going to be a huge weight released off your shoulders, mainly because the documents you have now, the discretionary trust, the SMSFs, the wills, they're all like, meh, you know, there may be a 2 out of 10. But once we take it up to the next level and start putting bloodline and the leading member and all that, which you'll get to show just that discretionary trust, that takes it to a whole new ball game. It's a premium system, but it's not that difficult to do. It's been very well thought out. And once you get it to yourself, you're really going to understand and talk about it to the client, because I can tell you, if you look at that, instead of getting in the weeds like we do with accountants and lawyers, if you started off with the fact is that, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most important, how important is it to you to protect your family wealth and grow it for your bloodline? And I would say that, first off, most of your clients, 99% of them would say it's probably a 7, 8 or 9 out of 10. And once you've got that, everything else just flows underneath. And then as soon as you do that, you can suddenly start to see the discretionary trust you got for your client, the SMSF you've got, the wills and estate planning where the family provisions challenges, everything that's in there is a 1 out of 10 in terms of protecting for the family, obviously for that bloodline protection.
Don't hold back, Grant. Don't hold back.
Sorry? Don't hold back.
Don't hold back, mate.
No, it's true. I mean, I being from the lawyer, I can tell you I'm doing quite a lot of attacking at the moment from other people. You look for those weaknesses. So, look, from that perspective, come along on Wednesday. We'll be there, and I'll be taking you through the leading member, why it's different, how a discretionary trust is completely different to a leading member, and more important, the same with an SMSF. And I think you're going to be pretty surprised. Anyway, I know you've got another event to go to. Someone who loves to have a chat. I can see you're a good TED talker there. Who's actually
talk all day these days, mate.
I know, exactly.
You know why though? Because I said at the start, the best communicator wins. We want you to get the most out of this. And we will not stop until you understand what you're doing with Change GPS and how you can get access to it. And if you've been a member, you know that that's true. I mean, we're doing webinars every 2 weeks, coming with new stuff every time. We're not going to stop. Yeah. And we've been I'll just share something about how reactive we are sometimes. Not reactive, but how much we're on the pulse. We've marketed webinars, got 400 people on, then it's Sunday afternoon, come up with a better idea and completely change what we want to talk about.
Exactly.
Because the market, especially last year, it moved. Like in hours, things that were important moved. And we just keep innovating and keep investing in Change GPS, and that's when our members will get to benefit from. And I love working like that.
Yeah, the main thing is
it's so much fun.
Yeah, the main thing is for anyone, if you're making an investment in time and being with people, like-minded people, I would always go for passionate people rather than boring people. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's it. If the people you're...
Do you want to come to the footy with me?
Yeah, well, who do you support?
Western Bulldogs. I've been kicked out of a couple of games.
Yeah, I did go to one. I went to a grand final there. I was a Swan supporter, and I was very disappointed that year. So... I
got married that year, and the grand final was a better day. I've explained to my wife why.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks a lot for that, and we'll see you again for another.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.